I want you to imagine being placed on hold with customer service, but like not for an hour.
Oh, no?
Yeah, for eternity. You're trapped in this endless gray hexagonal labyrinth.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It really is. The hold music is literally just the hum of fluorescent lights that flicker exactly every 17 seconds. And to make matters worse, you have to fill out a multi-page petition just to clarify what it is you were actually petitioning for.
Right, which is just, I mean, it is the ultimate manifestation of procedural despair. It's a system that has completely lost the plot.
Exactly.
The original purpose just vanished centuries ago, and you're left with only the grinding machinery, the process itself.
And that terrifying, totally claustrophobic scenario is the setting for the source material we are diving into today. It's a surreal, deeply philosophical narrative titled The Myth of Sisyphus in the Bureau of Labyrinths.
Quite a title.
It is, yeah. And the mission for this deep dive is to basically extract the insights buried within this absolute nightmare of infinite red tape.
Because there's a lot in there.
So much. Hidden inside this allegory are some really profound arguments about how we find meaning, how we build community, and honestly, how we manage to stay human when we're trapped inside soul-crushing systems.
Yeah, which is so relevant today.
Totally. We're going to track the journey of individuals who figure out that, well, if they can't escape the labyrinth, they have to completely change what it means to be trapped inside it.
And we really have to start with the environment itself, because the Bureau is arguably the main antagonist of the story.
Oh, absolutely.
It's this endless sprawl of hexagonal galleries and gray filing cabinets. But what stands out immediately is how the narrative explores the underlying mechanics of a bureaucracy. Like, in this place, endpoints are considered vulgar.
Vulgar, yeah. That word choice is so good.
Right. The entire administration is philosophically opposed to conclusions. Everything must remain perpetually pending.
And the geography of the place completely reflects that lack of conclusion. I mean, corridors aren't numbered by where they are physically located in space.
No, that would be too easy.
Right. They are numbered by the order in which they are discovered. So you can walk from corridor 29 lambda straight into corridor 29 lambda sigma null. Spatial reality just completely bends to administrative whims.
It's like navigating a website where the hyperlinks are constantly shifting based on what the servers decide is most relevant in that exact millisecond.
Yes. And that administrative dominance over reality is perfectly captured by the character, the cartographer.
Oh, the cartographer is fascinating. He sits down in a sub-basement drawing these maps of the Bureau. But the system is so convoluted that his maps no longer record the space, right? They dictate it.
Wait, explain how that works again, because it's so crazy.
Okay, so if he accidentally draws too many overlapping routes in a single conceptual zone on his paper, the ink literally bleeds through his drafting paper, and physical corridors tear themselves out of the actual walls to match his error.
It's just such a brilliant way of illustrating a phenomenon you see in massive corporations or governments today, which is that documentation precedes reality. The paperwork doesn't reflect what happened. The paperwork dictates what is allowed to exist. The map becomes the territory.
Exactly. And into this, hyper-regulated madness, we track two primary figures. First, we have Sisyphus.
Good old Sisyphus.
Right. But here he is pushing a massive boulder constructed entirely out of compressed interdepartmental memoranda.
Which just sounds so heavy.
Heavy, damp, and the book says it smells like thwarted ambition.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have a petitioner named K.
And K's situation is horrifying in a completely different way. I mean, Sisyphus has the boulder, but K has been walking the Bureau for so long that his yellow manila folder is physically merging with the skin of his hands.
Yeah, that imagery is so unsettling.
It is. And the folder just keeps getting thicker. He isn't even adding to it himself.
Right.
The Bureau is constantly generating amendments and schedules and addendums to a petition he doesn't even remember filing in the first place.
The contrast there between K and Sisyphus really highlights two fundamentally different responses to an absurd situation.
How so?
Well, K operates under the illusion of resolution. He genuinely believes that if he just fills out the correct form, follows the right arrows, he will eventually reach a final authority.
The castle. Right.
Right, a place he calls the castle. And he thinks he'll finally receive an answer. He thinks the system is solvable.
Whereas Sisyphus knows it's a joke. Sisyphus knows the system is totally broken and that this boulder of memos will always roll back down the hexagonal corridor. But he seems to find some weird comfort in the sheer physical friction of the push.
Yeah, the friction becomes everything.
Exactly. If the Bureau is this frictionless, meaningless void where nothing matters, The sweat on his brow matters. The strain in his muscles matters. I actually look at Sisyphus and think, he's leaning into the skid.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
He's manufacturing absolute certainty in a system that's explicitly designed to deny it.
And that friction is a survival mechanism. But the text argues that both of these solitary approaches, like Sisyphus finding meaning in isolated struggle and K desperately hunting for an isolated answer, they're both dead ends.
Because solitary rebellion eventually hits a wall.
Precisely. The philosophical core of this narrative really shifts the exact moment K actually manages to reach his mythical castle.
And the castle is just the ultimate letdown. I mean, K expects a throne room or some grand tribunal that will finally judge his worth and give him clarity. But he opens the door and finds a standard-issue gray metal desk occupied by a mid-level coordinator.
Just a guy in a short-sleeve button-down problem.
Exactly. The ultimate authority is just a middle manager.
And this coordinator delivers the fatal blow to K's entire worldview. He calmly explains that K's petition for clarification cannot be processed.
And the reason why is just maddening.
It really is. The coordinator says that processing the petition would require him to understand it, and understanding it would require the very clarification K is petitioning for.
Which is an airtight, completely unassailable bureaucratic loop. It's the kind of logic that makes you want to tear your hair out.
Absolutely. So the coordinator gives K 3 standard options. Option 1, withdraw the petition and be escorted to a theoretical, perhaps non-existent, exit.
Which sounds super sketchy.
Very. Option 2, amend the petition, which basically sends him all the way back to the beginning of the infinite journey. Or option 3, accept that the question is inherently unanswerable and just walk the corridors forever in solitary silence.
And this is the turning point, right? Because K is forced to realize that playing the game as an individual guarantees a loss. So he invents an unauthorized option 4.
Option 4?
Yeah. He chooses collective absurdity. He leaves the desk, walks right back into the labyrinth, and actively searches for the other people trapped inside so they can face the meaninglessness together.
He forms a collective.
Yes. He teams up with Sisyphus, the cartographer, and this incredibly haunting character named File.
File is such a tragic figure.
So tragic. She's a woman who has been waiting so long for her permit to exist that she is literally erasing herself with a metal file. She is fading into transparency.
Just disappearing inch by inch.
Right. But once this group comes together, the entire dynamic of the story flips. They stop acting like isolated victims of the Bureau and start weaponizing its own rules against it.
Yeah, they practice the absolute highest form of malicious compliance.
I love it.
It's so good. The Bureau, sensing a disruption in the natural order of solitary suffering, retaliates. It arbitrarily reclassifies the corridor the collective is occupying as a, quote, residential zone.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and issues a demand for monthly rent. They assume this will break the group since petitioners obviously have zero financial assets.
But File's response to this is amazing. She looks at the rent demand and realizes that a bureaucracy only cares about ledgers balancing.
The numbers just have to match.
Exactly. It doesn't actually care what the currency is as long as it can be categorized. So they fill out the rent payment form using the intangible assets they actually possess.
This part is so clever.
It is. They pay their monthly rent with 3 years of File's patient waiting, one of the cartographer's useless maps of confusion, the physical weight of Sisyphus's boulder, and K's fading memories of his life before the Bureau.
And the underlying logic here is just brilliant. The Bureau's valuation department actually reviews the form and approves the payment.
Which is wild.
It is, but it makes sense because within a purely administrative framework, an intangible asset is worth exactly what both parties agree it's worth.
Right.
By forcing the Bureau to process human experiences as transactional currency, the collective forces the system to acknowledge their humanity on official forms.
Well, wait, let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
Because they are still using the Bureau's forms. They are paying the Bureau's rent. Isn't this clever administrative jujitsu just another way of being controlled? Like, they feel like they are rebelling, but they are still completely constrained by the parameters of the labyrinth. Does this malicious compliance actually change the fact that they are trapped?
And that is the exact trap the narrative explores next. You've hit on the central tension of the whole book.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Bureau recognizes that aggressive retaliation isn't working, so it pivots to a much more dangerous strategy, co-optation. The Bureau doesn't try to crush the collective anymore. It decides to absorb them.
Because the Bureau is actually failing, right? The system is starving.
Precisely. The system is dying of irrelevance. Standard petitioners are just giving up, wandering the halls like zombies, no longer filing any paperwork.
And the bureaucracy without paperwork is a dying organism.
Exactly. It needs input to survive. So the senior bureaucrats observe the collective's high level of activity and officially designate them as a symbiotic processing unit, SPU-001.
SPU-001.
Yeah. The authorities basically send a memo saying, congratulations, your resistance is so productive that you are now officially our partners in management.
That is horrifying. It is the ultimate selling out dilemma. It's like an underground punk band that rails against capitalism suddenly signing to a massive corporate label because they convince themselves they can, change the industry from the inside.
It's a perfect analogy.
You have to ask, at what point are you no longer changing the machine and the machine is just changing you?
And that dilemma completely fractures the group. A secondary character named Matthias takes a faction of petitioners and leaves to form what he calls the pure resistance.
The pure resistance?
Yeah. Matthias argues exactly what you just did. He refuses any collaboration, any forms, any rent payments. He prefers to exist as a completely unprocessed ghost in the system, totally off the grid.
I have to admit, part of me sides with Matthias on this. Like, if the system is inherently evil, any participation is complicity.
It's a compelling argument for sure, but the text really challenges that purity. Because Matthias keeps his hands clean, but he also isolates his group in the freezing outer corridors, achieving absolutely nothing for anyone else.
I see.
Meanwhile, the main collective accepts the SBU status and actually leverages it to enact real material reforms. Because they have official standing now, they make the processing clerks slightly kinder, they make the waiting rooms warmer and more comfortable.
That does matter.
It does. They manage to simplify the most torturous forms. They are basically trading ideological purity for tangible harm reduction.
But the psychological toll of that compromise is devastating. I mean, look at what happens to Sisyphus.
Right, poor Sisyphus.
He has a total existential crisis because the Bureau takes his eternal, absurd, boulder-pushing, the very thing he used to generate his own defiant meaning, and they reclassify it as an official best practice for worker morale.
It's so twisted.
His radical act of defiance is literally repackaged by human resources as a productivity hack.
It's a stark warning about how easily radical energy can be commodified by the very systems we're trying to oppose. The collective is walking a razor-thin wire, justifying their collaboration by pointing to the, slightly warmer waiting rooms.
Right.
But a system like the Bureau will inevitably demand a price for that comfort. And eventually, the Bureau crosses a moral event horizon that shatters the collective's complacency entirely.
We have to talk about Iris, because this is where the story shifts from surreal satire to something deeply emotional.
Yeah, this part is tough. Iris is an 8-year-old child who just wanders into the collective's residential zone carrying a massive, overstuffed folder.
An 8-year-old?
An 8-year-old. The Bureau has launched a new experimental initiative where they are forcing children to petition for permission to age.
It makes my stomach turn.
Iris has to file these multi-page forms proving she has met the required developmental milestones just to be legally allowed to turn 9.
Which is such a visceral violation. The Bureau is trying to regulate time and biology. It's the ultimate commodification of human life. Like, you can rationalize your own endless waiting, you can play administrative games with your own rent, but you cannot rationalize the processing of a child's right to grow up.
No, you can't. And this is the breaking point for them. The collective realizes that maintaining their cozy, officially sanctioned SBU status requires them to turn a blind eye to a monstrous reality. They realize that some rules cannot be maliciously complied with, they just must be broken.
So they draw a line in the sand. They choose humanity over their authorized status. They take Iris and several other children in, fundamentally refusing to let them participate in the aging petition program.
They finally say no.
Yes, and they go on the offensive. They file a brand new, completely unauthorized document. Form Infinity, the notification of unauthorized moral action.
Such a great name for a form.
Isn't it? It's a formal declaration stating that doing the right thing now permanently supersedes doing the procedural thing.
And the Bureau's reaction is, predictably, swift and merciless. They immediately revoke the collective's official SBU status and issue a binding eviction notice.
Naturally.
The terms are absolute. The collective has 30 days to vacate their specific corridor, remove all personal effects, and cease all unauthorized gatherings in that location.
And the collective's response to this eviction is honestly my favorite moment in the entire narrative.
It's so good.
They realize that fighting the eviction head-on will just get them dragged away by security, right? So they deploy the ultimate loophole. They pack up every single thing they own, every manila folder, every handmade chair, even Sisyphus's boulder. They scrub the corridor completely clean, and then they move exactly 3 feet to the left.
Just 3 feet. Because technically, according to the cartographer's maps, moving 3 feet crosses an invisible boundary into a newly designated undefined corridor.
It's pure genius. A bureaucratic clerk comes down to verify the eviction, looks at his clipboard, sees that the original corridor is technically vacant, verifies they have removed all effects from that specific coordinate, and simply closes the case.
Checkbox ticked.
Exactly. They complied perfectly with the letter of the law in order to completely destroy the spirit of the law.
But notice how this action redefines their entire movement.
Yes, because they aren't trying to escape anymore. And they certainly aren't trying to reform the Bureau from the inside like they were when they had their official status.
Right, that ship has sailed.
They are now actively building a new world in the cracks of the old one. They are raising these children in the labyrinth. They are teaching them art, teaching them how to read the spaces between the regulations, teaching them how to map the chaos.
They are raising Iris and the others as natives of the impossible.
Exactly. They have managed to create a thriving, joyful culture right in the dead center of hell.
It's a profound philosophical pivot. The book is saying that if you wait for an oppressive structure to validate your existence, you will wait forever. The only real victory is to stop trying to solve the labyrinth and start building a home inside it, despite the walls.
But the Bureau isn't a passive entity, unfortunately. It is still starting for input, and the authorities realize they are losing control. So they authorize a final apocalyptic protocol that threatens to wipe out everything the collective has built.
Yeah, this introduces the climax of the narrative, which is Emergency Measure Omega.
Emergency Measure Omega.
A mysterious, almost godlike entity, known as the Archivist, appears to the collective with a warning. This measure is a total system reset. It would instantly dissolve the labyrinth and eject every single petitioner, returning them to the lives they had before they were ever summoned to the Bureau.
Which, I mean, on paper, sounds like salvation. It's the exit door K was looking for at the very beginning.
It sounds perfect, but the catch is severe. The reset requires a total memory wipe.
Ah.
Yeah, they would be released back into the normal world, but they would have zero memory of the Bureau, no memory of the art they created, and crucially, no memory of each other.
That's devastating.
The community they fought so hard to build would be erased as if it never existed.
And this forces the ultimate choice. The collective holds this massive vote. Hundreds of people who have been tortured by this bureaucracy are offered a get-out-of-jail-free card, and overwhelmingly, they vote to stay.
They vote to stay.
Because for them, freedom with amnesia is vastly inferior to imprisonment with connection. They choose to face the apocalypse of the system, whatever that entails, as long as they get to face it together, holding each other's memories.
It's so powerful. And to cement this decision, Kay takes one final, solitary journey to meet the Archivist at a hidden location called the Library of Unwritten Forms.
The Library of Unwritten Forms.
Yeah, which exists totally outside the Bureau's jurisdiction. And Kay doesn't submit a petition asking for salvation or escape or even for the Bureau to be destroyed. He submits a single piece of paper signed by every member of the collective asking for absolutely nothing except to be witnessed.
Just a record that they existed, that they mattered to one another in the dark.
Exactly, and this brings the character of File to her ultimate conclusion.
Right, because she was erasing herself.
Yes, and by the time Kay submits this document, File has completed her self-erasure. She has literally filed her physical body away in nothingness. But she achieves this strange, beautiful immortality because her essence is archived in the memories of the collective.
Wow.
They tell the children stories about her. They remember the sound of her laugh. Her existence proves that being held in the minds of people who love you completely short-circuits the Bureau's sterile filing system. A filing cabinet can be emptied, but a shared memory cannot be revoked.
Man. The Archivist imparts this final lesson to Kay, and it feels like the core thesis of the entire story. You can never truly know if your resistance is actually transforming a corrupt system, or if the system is just quietly absorbing your energy.
Right, you just can't know.
The macro-level outcomes are always beyond your control, but you can know with absolute certainty if you are generating joy and connection in the present moment. The true opposite of being processed by a machine isn't being free from the machine. The opposite of being processed is being witnessed by another human being.
It radically redefines what it means to win. I mean, the collective didn't tear down the bureau. The infinite hexagonal corridors are still humming with fluorescent light.
The paperwork still exists.
It does. But they prove that even under the most meaningless, isolated conditions imaginable, human beings will inevitably find a loophole to connect, to create art, to protect the vulnerable, and to assert their own meaning.
Which brings us right back to you listening to this deep dive right now. You might be dealing with literal mountains of paperwork, or navigating a massive, soulless corporation that treats you like a metric, or just grappling with the general, exhausting absurdity of modern life.
We all are, to some extent.
Right. And the message here is intensely practical. You might not have the power to dismantle the labyrinth you find yourself in, but you absolutely have the power to choose who you walk the corridors with.
The collective's victory wasn't finding an exit. It was transforming a sterile waiting room into a home. They used connection as a weapon against a system designed to crush it.
I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today, something we haven't actually touched on yet. Think about the nature of that apocalyptic reset emergency measure, Omega.
The memory wipe.
Yeah. The archivist offered to send them all back to their normal lives with their memories wiped, completely unaware that the Bureau ever existed. If that's the case, how do you know that hasn't already happened to you?
Oh, that is a haunting thought.
Right. What if the life you are living right now is the post-reset reality? What if you used to wander those infinite gray corridors and you chose the exit door and had your memory wiped? If that's true, what faint, lingering echo of the collective are you unconsciously trying to rebuild in your life today? What community are you searching for, hoping to recreate a connection you can't quite remember? Keep looking for them, because whether the labyrinth is real or just a metaphor, you're going to need them to help you push the boulder.